Welcome to Bourbon and Benefits. I'm Shannon Schumacher, Horan Account Executive, Kentucky Market Leader. At Horan, we're industrial thought leaders to explore new horizons in healthcare, employee engagement, and wellness. We're selfless in this work and determined to help you achieve your business and benefit goals. Horan is proud and excited to bring you Bourbon and Benefits. We are here at the Metropolitan Club overlooking the beautiful downtown Cincinnati today. And as you may have heard, the bridge is closed, so it's been fun to watch. Very little traffic going back and forth from up in the Metropolitan Club. But back to Bourbon and Benefits. You might be asking, Shannon, why are you putting something together called Bourbon and Benefits? Well, to be perfectly honest, it's two topics that I find myself talking about quite a bit. So I thought, why not just combine them and do something fun? So the idea of Bourbon and Benefits started where we would be live in the Metropolitan Club, socializing, having a drink, and talking a little bit about benefits. And then 2020 happened, and along came COVID, and we moved everything to virtual. But we thought, why not continue with Bourbon and Benefits and have a little fun talking about various topics and just to bring you up to speed on a few things. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just so that you know the agenda today, we're going to be making a drink, happens to be my favorite drink, with bourbon, the Old Fashioned. And then I will bring Libby in and we will talk about all things open enrollment and engagement. So first, I would like to introduce our bartender, our special bartender, Jess Meyer. Jess, thanks for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then if you want to just dive into the drink, let's go for it.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. My name is Jess. I have a bourbon bar that I manage events for right up the street called The Globe. So we are going to go ahead and make the Old Fashioned for you today. There's a couple of different ways that you can make this depending on your preference. You are going to need either bourbon or rye, whichever you would prefer. I actually love to make it with a rye myself. Angel's Envy is my personal favorite.
A good one.
All right, so we're first going to start by adding a sugar packet or a sugar cube or a teaspoon of sugar. Really, any of those options are fine. And then you're going to put a little bit of water in there as well, just about a teaspoon or two. You can also use club soda, so whatever is your preference there. Then we're going to take a orange, probably about a half of an orange slice, as well as a cherry, my personal favorite, the Luxardo cherry. We're going to put one cherry in, and maybe just a touch of cherry juice in there with it. And we're going to start to muddle this, which is just kind of, mushing everything up together. So take just a moment to do that. And we will add our bitters in. Just probably like 2 or 3 little drops of bitters is exactly what you need. Then you go ahead and pour the bourbon in. So we're going to want to use 1.5 or 2 ounces of bourbon. Give it a little stir once you have all of the ingredients in, and then you'll just top it with ice. And I always like to put an extra cherry and orange peel in as well.
So while Jess is finishing with the ice, for those of you that have already registered and are live with us, you received your pack to make your drink. So we did go ahead and go with the rye today. So you received your bullet rye. And then to mix things up a little bit, I don't know if you've made an Old Fashioned before or if you have ever tried a different type of bitters, but in your packet are orange bitters, and then of course the Luxardo cherries, because they're just simply the best cherries for the Old Fashioned. So I hope everyone enjoyed your gift package, and don't forget to pre-register for our next Bourbon and Benefits in 2021. We're hoping just one more virtual, and then we can be back live. Okay, so thank you, Jess. We really appreciate it. Now, if everybody sips their old-fashioned, enjoy, sit back, but I would like to introduce my friend from Haran, Libby Allison. Libby, thanks for joining. I want to tell you a little bit about Libby. She's very impressive to me. Libby is our employee engagement lead. Libby dedicates herself to our clients with a focus on enhancing an employee benefit experience. Libby helps us advance employee engagement for all the Haran clients. So thanks for everything that you do, and take it away.
Okay. Hi. I'm so excited to be here, excited to be sharing some of my expertise with all of you. And so like Shannon said, we're going to be talking about what makes a successful open enrollment. And as Shannon and I were talking about this, we talked a lot about technology, but really I think you'll see that when we're talking about a complete successful open enrollment, that technology just kind of weaves in and out throughout that process. So you need a little bit of the traditional mixed in with some of the new technology. But there really are 4 components that we see at Haran that make up a successful open enrollment. And those 4 components are ongoing communication, the modes of communication that you use, the enrollment process, and then employee support. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is ongoing communication. And this is the one that I think is the most important and most underutilized. Most people, when they think about benefits, they think about them one time a year at open enrollment, and then that's it. But really, in reality, not only is there a huge investment being made, not just by the employer, but also by the employee throughout the year, employees are also using their benefits or should be using their benefits all throughout the year. So it really doesn't make sense why we're only talking about this one time of year. Open enrollment shouldn't be seen just as the time to make your benefit decisions in that moment. It should be seen as something that you continue to talk about all the time. And so I think this leads to the question of, okay, how do you do that? How do you continue to educate about open enrollment when we're used to just doing it one time a year? And I think it starts with just building a communication plan. So sitting down, taking the time to think about how do I communicate about benefits throughout the year and really engage employees all throughout the year instead of just at open enrollment. The best way to build your communication plan is to think about other ways that you've communicated to your employees. So what other ways have been successful for your population, and how do you think employees best respond to the communication that you send? There's also a second piece to this, which is understanding how employees want to receive the communication that you're sending. So you really should consider surveying employees to understand how they want to receive the communication that you're sending instead of just doing what you think is best. I also think one of the most important things you need to consider when you're building a communication plan is how you make that plan multimodal. And so this leads me into the second point of the modes of communication that you use. I think that there's a big conversation happening lately around how millennials are kind of taking over the workforce and we need to communicate in a different way. And that's true, but they're also, what the real thing that we need to focus on is that there's multiple generations in the workforce, and you need to hit every single one of those generations in your communication plan.
That's really true.
Yeah, I think the switch to technology is a good thing, but like I said, it needs to weave in and out because some of your employees are going to be really tech savvy and some of them may not be. So you have to do a little bit of both. So I'd like to talk about some of the tools that we have at Haran that can help enhance your communication plans. And these are digital resources and more traditional. So we do have that mix of tools that you can weave in and out of your communication plans. One of them that we've rolled out this year is a benefit guide, and this is a guide that has a lot of detailed information, but it lives really online. And within that guide, you can link out to other forms of communication within that benefit guide. So employees have access to click through the document, watch videos within the document, listen to podcasts within the document, and so it really gives that digital benefit experience. We've also seen a great need for video content. I think most people are looking for new ways to send out communication, and videos are a great way to do that. I recommend short and quick and to the point, but when you send something in a different way, it really grabs people's attention. And then I can't talk about some of our digital resources without talking about Haran's podcast. So Haran's podcast is called
Time Out. Libby leads the podcast, and it has been ranked #2 in the nation. So kudos to Libby, and she should get a huge shout out for that.
Thank you, Shannon. It really, so this was going to be one of my points, was that we started this podcast, I think almost 2 years ago, and we didn't think that it was going to take off like it did. It's gotten really great feedback, and we've gained a lot of followers on our podcast, but I think it just goes to show that people are looking for new ways to learn about the things that they need to learn about. So those are just some of the digital resources that we have. There are traditional resources at Haran also that I think are just as important, like print materials. I mean, I think we should go green as much as we can, but I do think that setting things right in front of people is invaluable. So find ways to weave that in small ways. And then also in-person education. I think we've learned, especially now with COVID, that in-person touch really is needed. We were not, I like to say that we were not unprepared when COVID hit because of how far we've come with technology. We were really prepared to social distance and connect in a way where we didn't have to be face-to-face. But we're all kind of yearning for this in-person experience, and we're really missing it. And I think that proves how valuable those in-person education sessions or just in-person connections can be to the education process. So think about your communication plans from a multimodal approach.
Libby, when you talk about in-person, I know there's a lot of organizations that are nervous to have anything in person, but then there's a lot of organizations that they're essential, and they've been doing this and being at work and interacting with each other since, the onset of COVID. So are you finding that a lot of organizations are continuing with the face-to-face, but just in smaller groups, or how are companies managing the face-to-face when they do any at all, if they do any at all?
Yeah, I think it really depends. So I think we're seeing that those employers that have the ability to stay remote or answer questions or do an open enrollment meeting behind a screen, they're taking advantage of that. And the employers that aren't are doing things more in person and are trying to social distance as much as they can. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges to open enrollment this year is how do you get the information out to remote employees? And even not just in remote employees, even those employees who are in person, everyone's just distracted right now. We're distracted by what's going on in the world, and so it's hard to capture their attention. But I think that employers are doing a good job of trying to relate things to what's going on in the real world. Like if you think about open enrollment, this is a really important time, especially because of COVID, because your benefits are what's going to be what gets you through if you do have something happen to your health, or if unfortunately you do need to tap into your life insurance, those types of things. It's more important now than ever to really be educated and think about the benefits that are offered to you.
And that kind of goes back to what you said in the very beginning. This is not a one-time education.
Right.
This is a constant, and with technology and companies building on technology, you have the ability to, so to speak, touch your employees more now
Yeah.
than we ever have.
Yeah.
And being very cautious of it. So
Yeah.
I do think a lot of positive things can come from this, if, to your point, you put a plan together.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the positives that's come from COVID is that we know that we can adapt. We've seen that we can do it, and there are some really great solutions out there that are technology solutions that can help make a successful open enrollment or a successful benefits package as a whole, and employers are learning that they should probably tap into those resources.
What have you found, I know you work with a lot of companies and you help with a lot of open enrollment. What have you found to be the most popular technology choice for employers as they are trying to roll out information around open enrollment to their employees?
Yeah, definitely video content. Like, by far, video content. Employers are using, Haran has created videos that you can send to your employees just to let them know that open enrollment is still happening, when it's happening, and what they can look for. So I think more than anything, employers are looking for a way to grab employees' attention and get it away from what's happening in the world and bring them back to the reality that open enrollment is still happening and we still have to make these decisions this year.
Along those lines, I sense a lot of stress within these companies, and, what are some ways, again, that you feel we can help eliminate some of that stress for not just the employers, but the employees?
I think that one thing that we've seen, and employers are doing a really good job about doing, is promoting the EAP programs that they offer their employees. And most of these EAP programs, employers offer to their employees for free. And so we've always talked about how EAPs are so important, but they're so underutilized. And I've seen that the word is getting out, and hopefully people keep that in their back pocket for when they need to use an EAP now and in the future. I think, too, there's, telehealth is a big thing right now, and that was also,
Ask about that. Yep.
Yeah, that was a very underutilized resource in the past, and it's grown tremendously. People that didn't know about it before know about it now, know how to use it now, are more comfortable using it now because the world that we're living in is virtual. I think before there might have been a little bit of a stigma of, I'm seeing my doctor over the phone, how does that work? But we are doing it. I mean, we're living it right now. So, and it's proven to be successful.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, I probably would have been the one that would say, I'm not calling my doctor over the phone.
Yeah.
12 months ago. Yeah. And now I'm like, I've done it twice, and it's great, and it's easy, and it's going to be hard to even go back. Now, I know, primary care providers want to eventually see you in person again, but for right now, this is a really good in-between step.
Yeah, definitely. I think that as we're talking about, technology solutions, I'll just segue into my next point of the enrollment process. And this is where we can really put technology in the front seat, I think. Technology systems that promote enrollment, so that's enrollment systems and benefit administration systems, put employees in the driver's seat to making the decisions that they need to make. So instead of having to come to HR to ask the questions, it's laid out in front of them through the platform. It walks them through all of their benefits. It's right in front of their face. Most of these systems house additional information that they can find if they need to learn more. And then also most of these systems provide decision support, which is really key to choosing the right plan. So these systems will help you choose which medical plan is right for you. And it really does come with most benefit administration systems. So you're putting the employee in the seat to make those decisions instead of kind of sitting them in the back of the bus hoping that they follow along. Yeah.
I like that.
And then the last thing, and this is the most obvious and the most utilized and probably the best executed, is just making sure that employees understand what kind of support they have during open enrollment. Obviously, people are really good about communicating about the HR teams who are helping with the benefit packages. Haran has an engagement team, and I would say that everyone's pretty good about promoting those resources, but just make sure it's part of your communication plan. Make sure that you're giving them the resources that they need, but then also giving them kind of the second line of defense, which is who to go to questions. So those are really what we consider at Haran to be the 4 steps to building a successful open enrollment.
Libby, thank you so much. I'm going to brag on her. I think she's awesome and great, and she's brought a ton to Haran, and really the way that we have been doing open enrollment. Jess, thank you so much for all of your tips and tricks when it comes to the old-fashioned. I'll be drinking mine for a little while here. Thanks to the Metropolitan Club for allowing us to use this beautiful space. Again, as I mentioned, we hope to be live and in person in 2021. But until that time, join us next time for Bourbon and Benefits. And cheers.
They're not done.
They're not done. Cheers to you guys. Bye-bye.